Okay, well, thank you again for staying with us on your ultimate news and current affairs program on television. This morning on ITV, we call it TMI. Beautiful Thursday morning. The year 2023 is going to be a very interesting one, and from all indications, the journey to 2023 is taking shape. How it will pan out, how it will turn out, is already a reflection of the state of the nation, what is happening with the ruling party, talking about the APC, and there's several personalities that have indicated interest to take over the leadership mantle from President Muhammadu Buhari, who eventually will get the nod. Only time will tell. As is always the case, the political parties have a very strong and significant role to play in determining who emerges as a candidate, even before the electorates can decide who eventually takes over from Mr. President. But we'll keep tabs what is happening. I have the singular honor and privilege to have an interview with an astounding personality, a legal luminary, businessman, public affairs commentator, social crusader, a civil society activist, a former president of Student Union Government, University of Benin. He's the chairman of League of Patriotic Lawyers. He has the opportunity to work on several outstanding, profound human rights cases, working with the likes of outstanding human rights lawyers like Chief Gani Farahimi of blessed memory, and of course Femi Falana, SAN, and several others. We'd like to thank very specially Chief Barrister Abubakar Yusufu, the Ogineni of Ugigweben Kingdom. Of course, it's always a delight to have a personality here like you and to talk with you, extreme Nigeria, particularly against the background that, as they say, nothing seems to be new under the sun. But within the context of Nigeria, history always has a way of repeating itself, and it just looks like we don't learn from such history. Thank you for joining us, Chief.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Let's get started.
Yeah.
You played active role in student unionism back in the days when you were in school. I recall from profiling you, you took over from our very own Senator Matthew Rahide back in the days as SUG president.
Yeah.
What is your take on the comparison between what obtained back then in student unionism and what obtains today in student unionism?
Yeah. Thank you so much once more for having me. In our time or in our days, student union or student unionism was more profound. It was more of like, a people-oriented crusade.
Okay.
And you'll discover that if you are government financed or government sponsored and the students are aware, you definitely don't win an election. In fact, you will lose your deposit. But if you are really pro-people and you are coming from the background of Marxism, as it were, that was before Glasnost and Perestroika. Now we live in a unipolar world. You discover that it will be a smooth sail. And again, your activities prior to the manifestos to question night will definitely earn you the desired result. But what you have now is that student unionism has been so discredited. You have this type of tying victory in an election to the depth of your pockets, to political parties, and to all those things that are not relevant. In our days, things like religion, things like tribe, and even things like class do not form any point of reference.
Okay.
Suffice it to say that, our faculty was relatively new, faculty of law. I was the pioneer president of student union from that faculty. Before then, we had people from the School of Medicine and Pharmacy because of their numerical strength and because of their prestige tied to it. So we were able to change that narrative when I appeared in the scene, and we were successful in transforming our dream to reality. Because Don't forget that Adamu Beki was a vice chancellor.
Yeah.
Professor Wabuji was the deputy vice chancellor. We were successful in the main because Adamu Beki was also the president of student union in Ahmadu Bello University.
Back in his days too.
Yeah, so he was able to read our minds and tamper our radicalism, so to say, with his experience he had in ABU and what.
Okay.
So it was an exciting experience.
All right, let's just zero in on the road to 2023.
Yeah.
As well as the case, several individuals and personalities have indicated interest.
Yeah.
In a sense, there is this constant debate about the North-South dichotomy. Should the president come from the South? Should the president come from the North? Is also playing a very significant role in this whole debate about 2023. What are your thoughts?
Let me be very clear from inception. I represent a body, League of Patriotic Lawyers, and it might not be popular, you know, what we stand for might not be popular amongst, you know, some group.
Yeah.
We do not believe in power shift. We believe that the best person should take over. If that best person is from Ijebu, from Agbede, from after Teyeda, so to say, let me start, charity begins at home. It will make no difference. By the time you start talking of zoning and unzoning, we have more than 350, indeed, almost 400 tribes in Nigeria. What time will it get to a man from Uruni or a man from Agbede? So I think this issue of zoning is, to use a very colloquial language, is synonymous with AUF, like penalty kick. Let the best man appear in the scene. And video Milora Probok, I see the best option, and I support it. So I'm not in sympathy with that. And those who are advocates of this, you know, power shift, they're always quick to refer you to the Constitution of 1999 that is enshrined there, that there should be federal character and all that. But they also forget that the same Constitution says you should not discriminate against anybody on the grounds of his tribe, his religion, or race.
Yeah.
So I don't subscribe to power shift. I believe the best man should manifest.
You're one of those people who was very vociferous in supporting the present administration.
Yeah.
What were the basis of that line of action? Do you feel satisfied with the status quo? Because some people are already using that as a premise, as a foundation to seek the mandate of Nigerians.
Thank you. It is rather unfortunate that we enabled the present administration, we enabled Buhari to come into being. And it's unfortunate that we are now descendants of a suffering people. And we are descendants of a people. Indeed, we are determined to suffer no longer. That's why we are going around. We are going to start from here. We're going to go around the entire country, and we're going to put it in the main that APC as a government has not been good. And we are indeed asking for a replacement for APC as a government. Because if you look at the tripod, you know, in which he used, the alluring thing about Buhari and APC was that we actually saw a former president that had no house, or so it seems, a former petroleum minister that had no filling station, a former president that was really poor from a poor background. So when we saw his credentials, indeed, we questioned ourselves. You know, like the people who are very versatile in the Bible will say, is this the one we are expecting? Because we were expecting a very wealthy man, like it's customary, you know, in our political space. We're expecting a very rich man to come into being. But when we saw his credential from a very poor background, we thought that, behold, here comes a good guy, a good in quote. I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but it's because of that color, you know. It's just like when Christ was coming, people thought he would be a conquering Messiah, but he came as a suffering Messiah. So we actually asked, are ye he that cometh, or which will ye for another? So when you know, the leader of the Southwest, Tinubu, provided the bridge, so it was he was unstoppable, and he won the election, and he won convincingly in 2015. But unfortunately, we are not happy. That's why we are going around the country campaigning, apologizing, so to say. First of all, apologize, and we are not campaigning against the resurgence of
So if you were on that path, marketing the APC and Buhari as someone that you probably saw has what it takes to lead this country, you're probably going to start demarketing
exactly
the APC again. Do you think that Nigeria would accept this demarketing against the background that you were instrumental to what happened in the past, and now you're more or less on that vanguard of trying to be instrumental on what is to happen again.
Yes, you see, politics is very fluid. And one certain thing about politics is its uncertainty. You know, I think the most courageous person in APC today would be that guy that will come out and say, we have a very shaky foundation. I'm sorry. But it's unfortunate that all those people that have come to the to public space, they always tell you that we are going to build on Buhari's foundation. What foundation, if I may ask? So until we see somebody who is proactive enough and who is, who is bold enough to tell the people the truth that you have been betrayed, your dream has been dashed. A country whereby, virtually a part of the country is under siege by the militants and the terrorists. They are even scared to tag them terrorists. And a continent in turmoil, even a planet in peril, with what Russia is even doing in Ukraine. We have no viable, foreign minister. Our foreign ministry is blind and uninspiring. So the whole government is powerless and unimaginably bad. So I apologize, and we are actually out to support the most viable, again, in the terrain. It might interest you to know, you probably will ask, as a former student leader, why are you not going for the youngest? But we should not be pretentious about election and electioneering in Nigeria. It is very, very, very money-consuming, time-consuming. You require a lot of resources. So that's why we are going 360 degrees. We are turning around from APC to PDP as we are. There's really a line, a very thin line. But it's unfortunate.
Between both two parties.
Yeah, so, you can see the way they move from one party to the other. That's, a reflection of what we call power struggle. Yeah. What they call, in mathematics, they call it the positive, negative sign. In chemistry, it is known as the association and disassociation of atoms. In physics, they call it action and reaction, be it equal and opposite. In law, it is called the plaintiff defendant concept. And in social sciences, it is called class struggle. You have the interclass struggle and the intra-class struggle. Maybe this would be a lecture for another day.
Okay, let's quickly look at the conversations. We've seen people either going to see Mr. President to declare their intention or state their intention, or visit eminent personalities like former military president and all of that. And the former military president has been very vocal in that direction, talking about, okay, I love to see the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria within this age bracket, all right? But there are also those who have been saying that, look, the Southeast has been the most marginalized. And in a system where there is no justice, there can be peace, there can be development. What are your thoughts along those lines? Well,
like I've told you, I am against power shift. That's, basically, puts to rest the issue of,
Southeast.
The Southeast, so to say.
So how do you not deal with the issue of agitations, demands from the Southeast? With the IPOB?
No doubt about it. The Southeast, if you are to look at it from that sphere, is the most qualified. I say qualified in terms of, those they have churned out and all that. But I must tell you something that, the Southeast should be able to put their house in order. Don't forget that Ojukwu, before he died, he left behind a party, ABGA. One would have thought that the Southeast would be able to midwife that ABGA to a viable option that will be able to form an alliance that will take over the reign of government from the center. Just like what Tinubu did in Southwest, when he had just one party, AD. But this idea of playing second fiddle, I see Obi running around Atiku. What stops Obi from really strengthening ABGA? Anambra has the greatest conglomeration of millionaires in Nigeria. If they're able to come together and form ABGA, present somebody like Soludo, they are not presenting their best. I'm not saying that they don't deserve it, but I'm saying they should go back and recalibrate what they want. We will give them that stance. Like I told you, I am not for power shift, the best should come. And you were mentioning the issue of age a moment ago. I will be very frank with you because we are always very, very transparent. We are not opaque when it comes to what we want. We are not looking at people We are not relying on Babagida's
recommendation,
recommendation, because we don't even believe that his recommendation is worthy of trust. So those people turning the hills in Mina into Mecca, I think they are even misguided. Because Babangida did not really give us anything that's worth it. If he had allowed June 12th to stay,
right,
I think would have been able to pass this issue of tribe, religion, and whatever. He didn't. He annulled June 12th, and that's why he's a pariah in Nigeria, and Nigeria then became pariah even in the world. Yeah. So I don't think people paying a visit to that side, they mean well for themselves, and they are ill-advised, to put it very, the subtle term. As a matter of fact, we are looking towards those who are relatively young. You probably will say 63 or even 65, which is the rate where civil service will disengage, either in terms of age or 35 years, whichever comes first. Yeah. So we're able to zero in on professionals. People like, surprisingly, you might say, Dr. Bukola Saraki, people like, who is the medical doctor, people like the governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike. These are eminently qualified people in terms of age and what have you. But in APC, we are still looking out for people who will fit into these categories. Okay. We are becoming tired of an ailing president. So, the people are fatigued, with, articulation. Atiku is a gentleman, don't mind me, and even the Jagabambogu. So let them come up with people who are creative, people who are young, and all that. And if we don't do that, we'll be given, like I told you, we must come out. We are going to tour the entire country and conscientize the people, students, labor leaders.
Let's bring in a very important factor in our politics. Yeah. The northern oligarchy, specifically the Fulani factor, seems to be a major issue when it comes to politics in Nigeria. Is this just in reality, or this is just out of wild imaginations amongst Nigerians?
I think Nigerians are used to this type of stereotypes. And let me be very frank with you. They will say that it's only the eyes of childhood that fears the printed face of the devil. The Fulani oligarchy, so to say, is not as powerful as they are trying to paint, these...
Does it exist in the first place?
Well, like I said, I don't believe, we don't trust, I don't know. Where is their secretariat? Who is their president? You see, when we were just leaving the university, we also heard of the Kaduna Mafia. It was so frightening. Anything you say, well, everybody from Baiwa College belongs to the Kaduna Mafia. But right now, that one has, petered down. It has gone into insignificance. Now they're talking of the Fulani Mafia, the Fulani oligarchy and all that. Don't forget that the same Buhari who is leading us now, Babangida detained him, toppled and detained him for 3 years. Why didn't the Fulani oligarchy, why didn't they cry out in his bid, or in the bid to release him? Babangida is not the Fulani man. And the same Buhari detained Dasuki for a very long time. Dasuki is a fellow Fulani man. So the North is not a monolithic entity. There's the buffer there, the middle belt. So I don't believe in that situation. And even if you look at it, if you have to go back to history, if you have enough time, you discover that even the so-called Usman Dan Fodio jihad, they were not able to conquer the Northeast. El-Kanemi was a very big buffer. He represented the capital. He defended the capital successfully against Mohammed Bello. If you've been able to read some of those, letters, very, very, intellectually deep in rhetorics, in prosody, in suavity, in elocution, in grandiloquency, you see that when Mohammed Bello was to overrun Bani Gazagan, old Bonu Empire, he was recalled. They couldn't. He repelled. He repelled the forces of Mohammed Bello. And in one of those letters, permit me to quote it verbatim, he wrote to Mohammed Bello, showing the hypocrisy of the jihad, that the jihad was not really meant to sanitize Islam or to preach monotheism. He said, I'm quoting him verbatim, tell us therefore why you are fighting us and enslaving our free men. If you say you have done that to us because we are heathens, because we are pagans, because we are non-believers, then I say we are innocent. And heathenism is far from our courtyard. He went for that to state the pillars of Islam. If you're giving of arms, knowledge of the unity of God, that's monotheism. Going to Mecca once in your lifetime, fasting in the month of Ramadan and giving alms to the poor. It is a hidden worship. What therefore is Islam? Then he just said, those buildings, because when they came to Kanebon, they worshipped in the mosque. He said, those buildings in which you said the Friday prayers were the churches or fine temples. If they were not for Muslim rights, why then did you perform the prayers in them when you captured the capital? Binding Gazaragamu. This is nothing but sheer contradiction, unquote. So from that, excerpt, you discover that the Fulani, they did not really conquer even the neighboring northeast. So it's like, blowing muted trumpets. They are not as powerful as you think, and I don't think they will be. It will be suicidal for them to even face the entire nation. So that's why I said the field should be open.
Yeah, some people have been banned in some of these northern states, all in a bid to perhaps send a message that, look, I'm loyal, I'm available, I'm willing and ready to be able to do your bidding. I'm sure you're very familiar with what I'm talking about.
Well, you see, in a league of petroleum lawyers, we don't clout anything. We go direct. We're probably talking of Amechi. Amechi, who has it's unfortunate that, Amechi, who contributed in killing, I say killing, the transport university, in the Niger Delta, is going to open whatever in Katsina. But one basic question we'll definitely ask Amechi at the right time, that if Buhari had not been the president of this country, would we have taken this institution to Katsina? What is in Katsina that's attracting you to go and invest, other than political opportunism? But in any case, he's the minister, so it's not in my, it's not in my nature to attack the minister. He has his discretion, but I think it's also ill-advised, and that one will not yield anything. Okay. So, like the Bablika tree, it will not yield any dividends.
Okay.
Because by 2023, Buhari, I think, wants to leave a legacy. He wants to be a member of the international community, like Jonathan, like Obasanjo. You see that Babangida is not often called when they are holding meetings. Yeah. So the only thing he can leave behind, because since the APC has failed at Bismarck, is a credible election. That's why we are even asking him that he should quickly sign.
There's a delay in signing the Electoral Amendment Act.
Yes, it calls for concern, but it's not alarming. But like I told you, he wants to midwife a transparent election, and the only way he can midwife a transparent election if he signs that bill. I've listened to the presidential spokesperson. He has assured us. He said there's a policy somersault that he will sign on or before Friday. But if he does not sign, I think the people will take.
What's the main appeal to you as a person in the Electoral Amendment bill?
Well, you see, the issue of transparency, the issue of rigging will be highly checked. Once the result is, once voting is concluded, it will be done electronically and transmitted to the center. Anybody that is a member of the coalition team will be able to get the result even before it's announced in Abuja. So it's like it's an open thing. The question of asking number 4 to become number 1 becomes irrelevant. So because you have your result and I have my result. And the issue of asking courts to do the impossible. You cannot ask a court sitting somewhere in Abuja to come and detect, whether an election was rigged in Onitsha or Agbere, for want of a better word. So it becomes very clear, whilst you are going home, you already have your result. So those who are against the signing, they are perhaps scared, that the power of incumbency, which you will see, if it is signed between now and 2 months' time, people will start, those who crossed over to APC, they will start coming to PDP. They will now say that transparency is on its way. And that is the time we only see that we're trying to midwife a successful.
There's been some continuous discussions on the APC convention. Yeah. And even up to this moment, there are statements being made that, there's not a definite date for the convention to hold, I think sometime in March. Yeah. But what do you make of all of these circumstances that has, midwife the party in the last couple of months, leading to non-election of substantive executive chairman and stuff like that? Yeah.
Well, you see, like I told you before about this interclass and intraclass struggle. The APC is a marksman, of ideological, strange bedfellows, for want of a better word. There are some who are, capitalists, vampires, there are socialists, They are even Marxist in quote, and there are some people who are even, intellectuals, intellectual Almajiri, intellectual Babiala. They are very intelligent, but they are there to present, position papers and all that. So it's a confused, amalgam. So before you can reach a conclusion, before you can reach a consensus, that type of strange bedfellows, it's going to take a while. But let us hope, because we really want, the ruling party and the party we are promoting to give an effective challenge to each other, so that we will now know that the democratic space is being really pursued gloriously.
What's your take on the level of political education awareness of Nigerians to be able to make the best choice when it comes to that critical stage? Because you alluded to the fact earlier that money is a dominant factor in Nigerian politics. I mean, we can't forget in a hurry the storyline about how some bullion vans entered a particular house during the last general election. That's also a matter that is still raging. For a society that we have that believes so much in money, money dominates and rules everything. What do you make of that as a challenge, the money factor, vote buying and stuff like that?
It is really unfortunate. I say unfortunate because we really enabled this government. And we are going to try our best to ensure that the government does not come back. They've been able to weaponize hunger. You discover that somebody, even a man that has a PhD, a lecturer and all that, who's supposed to be the presiding officer of an electoral process, is succumbing, worshipping in the shrine of clay-footed gods. So money has been playing a very significant role, and that's why we want to take this issue of going around the country to ensure that we really tell the people that you should not sell your birthright for a morsel of bread. I remember what that guy, the Algerian man, Francis Fanon, born in 1923, and he died in 1961. He was a French national. He had this the opportunity of fighting against France. When the Algerians, they were fighting, or they were in search of their independence.
Okay.
And he did say, quote, that the future will have no pity for those people who possess the exceptional privilege of being able to speak words of truth to their oppressors, but they have taken refuge in an attitude of passivity, mute indifference, and sometimes of cold complicity, unquote. So people like you, the fourth estate of the realm, me, and those outside there, we should go out and conscientize the people like we did in 2015. Like we, to a very large extent, we also did same in 2019, to tell the people that money should not form any point of reference. And we also think, too, that this electoral, I'm not saying it's a silver bullet that will cure all political ailments, but we think it's going to serve its purpose, and it's going to ensure that the use of money is still very important, is minimized. So I'm hopeful, and despite the very low level,
do you see the Edo State governorship election model playing out in the 2023 election against the background of all the challenges that have been there before the present administration came on board, and they are still there even as we speak?
Yeah, that one again takes me to the issue of these so much trumpeted, Fulani overruling, overpowering influence and all that. In far away Lagos, whilst I was watching the events in Edo State, don't forget that the Attorney General Abubakar Malami was in support of the faction, the House faction, in fact, that went on a wood and went to Abuja. Indeed, he resurrected the House faction, and that shows that he wanted to, he wanted that side to win the election. He was not able to do it. Engaged, the machine, Obaseki's machine, crushed him, despite the fact that Malami, you will agree with me, is a strong member of the so-called Fulani oligarchic, sway or control. So anything can happen if we can get, a very transparent election. So I'm not more pretentious, with apologies to Oliver Wendell Holmes.
You're an abject critic of Governor Godwin Obaseki. Has that changed? If it has, what influenced that?
Well, you see, let me be very, very clear. Obaseki was my senior in the secondary school. When he was in class 5, I was in class 1. I think to a very large extent, it is changing gradually because I'm seeing the roadmap he's following, I'm seeing what he's trying to do and what he's not trying to do. And I do hope that he should be given an opportunity to sanitize the Ogistable in Edo State, you know.
So those who are saying that he's alienated from the political class in a sense, particularly against the background that you now have the new and the old, using the PDP as a case study. Do you think they have any ground for such allegations or accusations?
I think, in my mind, those who are, you know, you see, there's this philosopher who will say, beware of those, I'm quoting verbatim, who are constantly critical of others. For when you turn your back, they may deal with you in the same manner. Such is the identity of the negative man. Avoid them like the plague, unquote. You see, the most vivid example was the one I read recently in Lagos, when somebody was saying that the Obaseki is concentrating on Edo North and Edo Central to the detriment of Edo South. I think that's a very, very layman's viewpoint of looking at it. In the first place, the Secretary of the Government is from Edo South, Chief of Staff is from Edo South, the other one, SSG is from Edo South. So I don't think that one has any role to play. Then he was talking about permanent secretary. I don't know whether you are aware that permanent secretary is supposed to be on merit. If you are going to appoint you, you write an exam, competitive exam, you pass him, you are interviewed. If you fail, nothing like that happens. So I think it is tantamount to saying that these people are, social cripples who are in quest of, antiquated alibi to cover their insufficiency. So let us ensure that that's why we are starting here. There's a ethnic amity. You know what has happened to our so much trumpeted, Isan Gbedu, Edokpa Mahin, and we are all one. Look at what happened in our plebiscite. The rate we turned out and all that. We don't want any division in Edo State, like I told you. Even if the governor has not been able to perform, let's wait. When it comes to the time the election will come, vote against his interest, vote against him. But like he's the governor, let not be encouraging anybody to distract him. I'm not saying we're endorsing on what he has done, but I'm only saying that since an election has been declared and the court has endorsed him, let us give him an opportunity to manifest his intention. And don't forget that virtually in any secondary school, if the senior prefect is too popular or the labor prefect is too popular, it's a very bad senior prefect. The labor prefect is the labor prefect is always a very bad man. So I would not be surprised that Obaseki is also a very bad man. Because anytime I still think of my labor prefect in secondary school, I say, behold, a bad man. So that is it. So we leave that to the electorate to decide. Come the time he will be executing office.
Because moments like this are not don't come quite often.
Yeah.
And I also know that you're a very reputed lawyer. A scenario has been playing out in the last couple of days about a certain DCP Abakari, who was the head of the intelligence response team under the office of the Inspector General of Police.
Yeah.
Well, for many, is a clear case of falling from grace to grass.
Yes.
But I'm a little bit concerned because when you look at his profile, the accomplishments, the testimonies, the victories, the battles won and all of that, and then you are trying to place it side by side what is coming forth. Are you concerned about these developments?
I'm concerned, but not completely alarmed. As a lawyer, I would say that it would be irresponsible of me to say, crucify him, crucify him. So we still want the court to take, his time, with the court to determine Abakari's fate, even though, it's obvious in quotes. So I would not want to rush to, that type of hasty conclusion. That one makes me, unqualified to be a lawyer, properly so called. But if you are to rely on what is coming out from people, the press, the fourth estate of the realm, and even the public generally, Abakari has been very despicable in his conduct, and don't forget that it is the same SARS that transmuted to the IG monitoring unit and what have you. I think it's time for the police to take a second look at it, because this is a blight on their reputation, and it's not commendable at all. It's not a selling point. So we'll leave it at that, because the thing is unfolding.
Okay.
Yes, I just try to maintain, why we said our cabal so far, we've been able to see just two. Yison Wike, who's been very, who's been the most consistent advocate of federalism. He took the federal government to court. That was very, very proactive.
Okay.
That's a step towards, realizing the federal structure. And even Dr. Bukola Saraki, that is the most misunderstood person, who is also emerging, from the stage. These two, characters, they are, we've been able to select in terms of age and in terms of profession. One is a doctor, one is a lawyer. So we are going to start campaigning. We are still going to get more people, especially.
So what about the possibility of having skeletons in their cupboards, particularly for Dr. Bukola Saraki?
Well, it was actually.
Wike is in power now, so probably nothing is known about him. Recently, we just saw someone like Senator Rochas Korocha facing EFCC prosecution. I mean, all of those things were basically when he was in power as governor of his state.
Well, it was Benito Mussolini, the father of fascism, who said on the 29th of April, 1945, shortly before he was executed, that, quote, "Every man dies a death that befits his character, that no man can deny faith twice," unquote. Bukola Saraki is not a Mussolini. Bukola Saraki created the atmosphere, even in Kwara State, for this thing they call Otuge. He was able to democratize against his own father, when the father was insisting that the sister should take over the mantle of leadership from him. He said no. He fought against the sister lost the election. Bukola Saraki, as the president of 8th Senate, don't forget that he pumped in a lot of resources into the health care. He also sponsored Not True to Young Bill. So, the same thing, followed Abiola. After 1979, Abiola became the most unpopular person in the whole of the West, because he used his newspaper Concord to lambast and lampoon Awolowo, and the Yorubas believed that it caused the fall of Ariwo to Shagari. But, he turned around and he became the most liked in the whole of Western region. I think it's still too early to say, he has a bad press and all that. And the other thing is that Bukola Saraki does not like hogging the headlines. Don't forget that all the cases so far against Bukola Saraki, they've suffered the violent hammer of dismissal in court. So I think it is too early to stigmatize anybody, including anybody.
Okay.
Before
we're here now in our political development and evolution.
Yes.
Anytime I reflect on our trajectory as a people, I'm tempted to believe that what did we actually get from our heroes past? You remember the days of the Action Group, the UPN, the NPN, and the likes, the AWOS, the ZIGs, the TAFA. What did subsequent generation take from them as institutionalizing them as a virtue to drive, our political development? Because it looks like at every stage, we just go off course, and then we try to re-aggregate and stay on course. Like today, we're talking about, should it come from the south? Should it come from the north? I mean, there are people who will tell you that if the next presidential candidate, any party that features a presidential candidate from the north, I will not vote for that candidate.
Yeah, that is what we are talking about. That has been short-sighted, because the same north that we had people like the late Yaradua. Same north we had the military president, Murtala Mohammed, who was very progressive. In the short term, he stayed there and all that. But again, let me address your question frontally. I think the present crop of politicians, they have really learned nothing. They have forgotten nothing. Like the bonbons of old. When the bonbons were sent into exile, and they spent 22 years in exile, when they came back, they were so much in a hurry to assume their anarchic past. So that's why historians will tell you that dynasty of the bonbon, in spite of your 22 years in exile, you've learned nothing, you have forgotten nothing. If anything, they have turned, because those people were very virtuous, those people you just mentioned, Awolowo, Zik, Ahmadu Bello, and what have you. Though they had their own shortcomings, but they were very virtuous. That's why you cannot see a big estate in Lagos or Abuja. Abuja was not in existence then. That these people would say, this is my own and all that. They were really patriotic, so to say. And You know, that is what we stand for in League of Patriotic Lawyers. Love for one's nation, loyalty to the state, and zeal for its true interest. But what the people that are coming out now, I want to say that they are hyenas. They want to dominate the present, they want to usurp the future. So that is why we should be very careful in our selective process. That's why we should be very careful to ensure that we don't allow the richest man to manifest as a winner in the election. And the only thing that can cure this is this electoral bill that is before Mr. President. And if he fails to sign, I will also go further to say that it should be overruled by
National Assembly.
Yes, that's my panacea.
Fantastic. Let's quickly talk about the plight of our youths. Today's youths, what they are known for is the quest to get rich quick. And that's manifesting in ritualism. I'm sure before we come on air, you heard us, talking about this, just talking with my colleague about the challenge. I mean, the Minister of Information banning movies containing such contents and stuff like that. For a society that has such a huge population of youths, and everybody's gravitating towards the direction of getting rich quick, it doesn't matter how you get the money. What do you make of this as a challenge? And then what is the level of response so far that you have seen? Do you think we are responding appropriately to deal with this issue?
Yeah, as a former student union leader and as somebody connected to the youth, this is part of our Herculean task to reconscientize the youth. Because if the youths are really conscientized, because they constitute more than 70% of the voting masses of Nigeria, they'll be able to turn, and there's transparency, they'll be able to turn the adjustable in their bid. So we are going to go from state to state and tell the youths who are, because they are hopeless and seemingly helpless, they've taken to these rituals and other negativity. So I don't think we are completely out of track.
Okay.
We are still going to bring back them to track and ensure that we use their positive energy to change Nigeria and change Nigeria for good.
I want to thank you very much, Chief Barrister Abubakar Isufu, Chairman, League of Patriotic Lawyers, for creating time to be here and vibe with us, as we say, interact with us, give your perspective of some of the build up to the 2023 general election, just to help us make sense of what is happening and see how we can navigate our path and ensure that we come out clean. Let me also congratulate you on the award, 2021 Award of Excellence, courtesy Uniben alumnus.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, we hope that subsequently, when you find the time to be in Benin, we'll also have you here to talk more. Because I'm sure that in the days to come, a whole lot is going to happen.
Thank you so much.
In terms of the road to 2023, that demand us having you here to talk with us. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
It's the TMI Thursday. We'll take a short break. We'll be back with you to conclude the program. Please stay with us.